When I was 5 months pregnant, I accidentally answered my husband's phone. A sweet little girl's voice came from the other end. "Daddy, when are you coming to see us?" "Mommy and I miss you." Jiang Yueshing was in the kitchen washing fruit when the call came. I was sitting on the sofa watching a variety show with a pillow in my arms, and I answered casually the moment the phone rang. Before I could say anything, I heard a childish and unfamiliar voice on the other end. "Daddy, when are you coming to see us?" "Mommy and I miss you." The child on the other end didn't get a response, and called out cutely a few more times. "Daddy? Daddy, are you there?" I didn't say a word, and then a girl's voice came. "Yeah, who are you talking to?" The girl's voice was a little flustered. "No one, Mommy." Then there was the sound of the phone being hung up. I glanced at the phone. The contact was saved as Director Deng. My heart sank, and I deleted the chat history without making a sound. I gripped my phone tightly. If there was no contact name, I would definitely think someone had dialed the wrong number, but a woman's intuition told me that this Director Deng had an unusual relationship with Jiang Yueshing. And sometimes Jiang Yueshing works overtime because of a call from this so-called Director Deng. I glanced at the man in the kitchen wearing an apron, and I felt a little difficulty breathing. I put the phone back where it was and adjusted my emotions. Jiang Yueshing considerately placed the washed and cut fruit in front of me, then sat with me and gently stroked my 5-month pregnant belly. "Ai, what do you think is a good name for the child?" I stared at him intently. Gentle, refined, and considerate are the most common compliments I've heard about him. Now, a phone call makes me have to face the fact that maybe this relationship of ours is just wishful thinking on my part. I put on a decent smile, as if everything was the same as before. "Isn't it a little early to choose a name now? We don't even know if it's a boy or a girl." Jiang Yueshing fed me a piece of mango, his tone full of doting. "Then let's each choose one. Anyway, whether it's a boy or a girl, I'll love them as long as they're yours." My emotions were complicated, and I comforted myself that maybe it really was a wrong number, maybe it really was Director Deng's child. Just as I was about to speak, Jiang Yueshing's phone rang again. I glanced at it, and the contact was Director Deng. Jiang Yueshing answered calmly, his tone flat. "What's the matter?" I don't know what they said on the other end. The voice on the phone was very soft, and occasionally I could hear the child's excited voice. Jiang Yueshing glanced at me, bent down and kissed me on the lips, pointed at the phone, and then took a cigarette to the balcony to smoke. Jiang Yueshing held the phone in one hand and a lit cigarette in the other, the smoke rising slowly as he inhaled. He didn't know what he said to the person on the other end, but he looked at me, his expression obscure, and his body was full of unspeakable composure and restraint. Before the cigarette was finished, Jiang Yueshing stood on the balcony in a daze for a while before coming in. Since I got pregnant, Jiang Yu has rarely smoked, and I feel a faint unease deep down. I really want to tell him, "Don't go, I need you now." As long as he doesn't leave, I'll believe all of this is fake, but Jiang Yu hesitated for a moment and still said, Mr. Deng from the partner company wants to talk about the project now. I'll go out for a while and buy you your favorite cake tonight." I couldn't understand the emotion in his eyes, and I felt extremely flustered deep down at that moment. The hand I was using to grip the corner of his clothes slowly relaxed. I compromised and said, "Oh, then go." Jiang Yu just ruffled my hair, got up, grabbed his car keys, and left. The moment the door closed, I was the only one left in the huge room. I went back to the room to write down the phone number I had just seen and found someone to check the location of the phone. The more money you give, the more efficient they are. It only took an afternoon for them to send me the address. It was next to a certain elementary school in a well-known school district. You can't necessarily buy a place there even if you have money. It seems Jiang Yu has put in a lot of effort for the other party. I looked at the address on my phone and drove alone to the location of the neighborhood. Perhaps it was because I was pregnant, or perhaps because I was unwilling to accept it all. I drove very slowly. What's coming will always come. I parked the car at the entrance. I was still wondering which building they lived in when I saw a familiar figure holding a cute little girl's hand. He was also accompanied by a slender woman. Their behavior was normal, and there weren't even overly intimate gestures, but my heart still skipped a beat. I watched the little girl act spoiled with Jiangyu. He bent down to pick her up, and the girl kissed him on the face. The little girl looked about 3 or 4 years old. I looked down at my pregnant belly. Jiangyu and I have only been married for 8 years, and his illegitimate daughter is already so old. My heart ached to the extreme, as if my soul was being torn apart, and all my emotions turned into endless sorrow. I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. My hair was messy, and my skin condition was very poor because of the pregnancy. I looked as if I had aged 10 years. I looked in their direction. From a distance, I couldn't see Jiangyu's expression, but the intermittent laughter made me know that Jiangyu was happy at that moment. I stared at the family of 3 for a long time before mechanically taking out my phone and calling Jiangyu. After a while, it was finally answered. I watched the woman take the girl from Jiangyu's arms and then take her to the snack street to buy candied haws, while Jiangyu found a quiet place to answer the phone. It felt like something was stuck in my throat, making it difficult to speak. When will you be back? Jiangyu's voice echoed in my ears, gentle and refined. Honey, I might not be able to get back until late. The cake has already been ordered and will be delivered to your house tonight. Eat your cake and wait for me to come back. His tone was the same as usual, leaving me with nothing to criticize. If Jiangyu hadn't cheated, why would he need to lie to me? This phone call made me completely give up and unable to convince myself that it was all fake. The setting sun enveloped the entire city. Outside the car, people came and went in a bustling, lively scene. The air conditioning wasn't on in the car, and the cold seeped into every inch of my body. The baby in my belly seemed to sense my emotions, and started kicking up a fuss. I tried to calm my agitated emotions, raised my hand to touch my belly, and soothe the baby. I pinched my arm hard to suppress the sob that was rising in my throat. Then I'll wait for you to come back. As soon as I hung up the phone, I realized that my face was already streaming with tears. I composed myself, recalling that when I accompanied Jiang Yuesheng to start his business with nothing, he always told me to calmly think of countermeasures when we encountered difficulties. So I wiped away my tears and took a few photos to keep as evidence. I didn't make a scene, nor did I go up and question him why he did this, why he lied to me. I was frighteningly calm. What's done is done, more words are useless. When Jiang Yuesheng came back, I was curled up on the sofa, eating cake in small bites. He sat down next to me, radiating coldness, and I shrank back. Amused by my reaction, he reached out and wiped the cream from the corner of my mouth. You're just like a child. The corner of my mouth twitched into a smile. Isn't that because you spoil me? That was true. Jiang Yuesheng would satisfy my every need, and he would patiently coax me even when I threw small tantrums. That's why I still can't accept that Jiang Yuesheng cheated and has another family outside. Without thinking, he said, "Of course I have to spoil my wife." I lowered my head, concealing the emotions in my eyes, and asked, "If you don't love me one day, would you share this feeling you have for me with someone else?" A fleeting hint of panic flashed across Jiang Yuesheng's eyes, but then he returned to normal. We've been together for so many years, I could never share that with someone else. I looked up and met his eyes. The sincerity and earnestness in his eyes seemed genuine, as if everything that happened today was fake, as if he was still the perfect husband, still doting on me to the bone. I smiled wickedly. What if you break your promise? He looked at me for a long time, and eventually I broke the silence. I fed him the cake, trying to ease the atmosphere. Okay, I was just kidding. I saw him breathe a sigh of relief, and I lowered my eyes in disappointment. I remember the year Jiang Yuexing loved me the most. He promised in front of everyone he would love me the most in this life, and if he ever did anything to hurt me, he would live the rest of his life in solitude. But now people's hearts change easily, and the promise from back then no longer counts. From the moment Jiang Yuexing chose someone else, we were destined not to make it to the end. I've been trying to collect evidence of Jiang Yuexing's affair these past few days. So when Jiang Yuexing told me he had to go on a business trip, I knew my chance had come. He was worried about me and the baby, so in addition to Aunt Zhang, he hired 2 nannies to take care of me in shifts. He tilted his head slightly, lowered his eyes, and very carefully repeatedly told them about my eating habits. I stared at him, stunned. Jiang Yuexing is now 32, and compared to his younger self, his features have been tempered by the years, becoming more firm and steady, exuding an inner mature charm. Noticing my gaze, the corner of his lips curved up, and he said softly, "What are you doing standing there?" His eyes swept over my bare feet, his expression changed, and he quickly got up and picked me up. His arms were strong, and I leaned in his arms, listening to the powerful beating of his heart. He bent down and placed me on the sofa, looking at me deeply, his tone carrying reproach, but more of it was heartache. "Now that you're pregnant, you need to take care of yourself. It's terrible for pregnant women to catch a cold." Aunt Zhang and 2 new helpers stood aside smiling. Their relationship is so good. I hooked my lips and slowly pushed him away. "Mind your image." I looked at the man in front of me with complicated emotions, countless feelings surging within me. I don't know if Jiang Yuexing is doing all of this because he really loves me, or because he doesn't want to give up on the affection of these past few years, or if he's acting out of guilt. Truth and lies, lies and truth, I still haven't seen it clearly. Jiang Yuexing touched my stomach, i.e., wait for me to come back. I responded with a smile, but as soon as he got on the plane, I turned around and waited for his little mistress at the school gate. The bell rang, and a crowd of students poured out of the school gate. I saw the woman in the crowd at a glance. I deliberately stood in their path, watching the woman lead the child past me, but the moment I saw the woman's face clearly, I felt like I had been struck by lightning. The woman's face was 7 parts similar to mine, but with a little more fragility, which could arouse a man's desire to protect her. What I found most unacceptable was this woman was Jiang Yuexing's former assistant, Dang Wei. I was a little emotional. Dang Wei tilted her head to look at me. I bit my lip tightly, and then she led the child away. I came prepared, wearing a big hat and a mask. Even though Dang Wei had seen me, she didn't recognize me. I went back to the car and sat in the driver's seat, staring blankly. The year Dang Wei became Jiang Yuexing's assistant was exactly the 2nd year of my marriage to Jiang Yuexing. Jiang Yuexing was still saying in my ear that the new assistant looked a lot like me, reminding him of me at 22. At that time, our relationship was deeply affectionate, we supported each other, and our feelings were so good that I trusted him completely. I even joked, "Will you fall in love with that woman who looks like me, like in the TV series?" Jiang Yuexing didn't hesitate at all, he directly blocked my mouth, and finally answered with lingering interest, "You accompanied me through countless hardships, no one can replace your position in my heart." Finally, he took my hand and placed it on his chest, the sound of his heartbeat galloping like horses, passionate and exciting. The love in his eyes was surging, making me blush, i.e., "I love you, I only love you, and I won't give even a shred of my love for you to anyone else." He confessed his love to me without reservation. "Even if you 2 look alike, in my heart, you are unique, one of a kind, and irreplaceable." I shyly and gently punched his chest. "You're such a grown-up, still saying such cheesy things." Even though I said that, I was beaming with joy, so I never doubted his love for me. I leaned back in my chair and laughed, but the tears couldn't stop flowing. So, am I the only one who remembers the promise from back then? Jiang Yuexing and I are childhood sweethearts, growing up together since we were little. When I was a child, my parents divorced and started their own families. They both disliked me as a burden, and no one wanted to raise me. It was my grandmother who couldn't bear it any longer and took me away. My mother didn't listen to grandmother's advice and married my father without hesitation. Their contact gradually decreased. I thought grandmother also hated me. Until I was tossed around like a ball by my parents, the gray-haired old woman stood up for the first time and took my hand to leave home. Due to my birth family reasons, it took grandmother a long time to help me come out of it. I transformed from a shy and introverted little girl into a smiling and persistent girl. Later, a beautiful mother and son came to the village, and everyone in the village was talking about it. The cicadas were chirping incessantly on the trees, and the weather was hot. Grandmother fell ill, so I obtained permission from the aunt next door to pick lotus seeds from her lotus field and bring them back to cook lotus seed porridge for her. In the scorching summer, the sun burned like wildfire. I made a hat out of lotus leaves, and my small figure searched for lotus pods in the lotus field, which was taller than myself. That's when I met Jiang Yuesheng. While I was still trying to pick lotus pods, I heard a gentle and pleasant voice coming from not far away. "Little friend, are you selling your lotus seeds?" I turned my head and saw a beautiful young woman standing by the road, with delicate makeup and beautiful clothes. She was holding an umbrella in one hand and a suitcase in the other. Next to the woman stood a little boy. He didn't look very old, but he was really exquisite. Unlike us, who were tanned and dark in the village, he was glowing white in the sun. He stood quietly. I raised my hand and wiped my face, not caring about the dirt on it. "Yes, you can give me some money." I picked the biggest lotus pod in my hand and handed it over. My face was dirty, so I subconsciously wiped it. I saw the boy curve his lips into a smile. That day, I earned 5 yuan and happily gave the money to Aunt. Aunt didn't want it and told me to keep it for myself. Later, I learned that Jiang Yuesheng's father had climbed up to a rich young lady and divorced his mother. They moved from the bustling city to the village. Without a background or even a man to support the family, they were having a hard time living here. Grandmother was a great cook and would occasionally ask me to deliver some food to them. Grandmother sighed, "It's never easy for a woman to raise a child alone." I remembered that my grandpa passed away early, and my grandma raised my mother alone. I don't know how much criticism and indifference she endured to get to where she is today, so I was moved when I saw them. Jiang Yuesheng was very aloof, but polite to others. Occasionally, when he saw me being bullied by the village bully, he would help me drive him away, even though we both had bruises on our faces. Gradually, I became familiar with Jiang Yuesheng. We would lie in the haystack pile by my grandma at night and watch the stars. We would secretly lie by the window and comfort each other when we were sad. We went to and from school together, did homework together, fished for shrimps in the river together, and did crazy things together. Later, as teenagers, we naturally fell in love and got together. In my 3rd year of high school, I received the news of my grandma's death, which was like a bolt from the blue. I couldn't believe the teacher in front of me. I took leave and returned home. Seeing the empty room, I cried until I fainted. My mother, whom I hadn't seen for many years, hurriedly came back, cremated my grandma, and buried her ashes in the back mountain, where my grandpa, whom she missed the most, was. This should be the best thing my mother has ever done. But I didn't even see my grandma one last time. When I woke up, I was in the hospital, and Jiang Yuesheng, who was usually clean and tidy, looked even more miserable than I did. He was still wearing his school uniform and fell asleep by the bed. I moved my finger, and he woke up in surprise, hugged me with joy. "Ai, you're finally awake, you scared me to death." I could feel his body trembling and the fear in his words. I couldn't hold back my tears any longer and cried in his arms, "Jiang Yuesheng, I have no home anymore. My grandma, who loved me the most, left me, and in the end, I was still alone. My tears soaked his clothes, but he didn't mind or push me away. Instead, he stroked my head and comforted me. It's okay, Grandma and I will always be by your side, you are never alone. The heartache in his eyes was deeply engraved in my heart, and I thought that he was the only one for me in this life. I was planning to organize the photos of Jiang Yuesheng's cheating into a file on my computer, but when I opened WeChat, I realized that Jiang Yuesheng's account was still logged in on the computer. It was a profile picture I had never seen before. With trembling hands, I opened WeChat, and there were very few contacts inside. One was Dang Wei, and the other was the kindergarten parent group. There were also other subscription accounts, nothing else. I clicked on Dang Wei's chat box. The background picture was a child about 1 year old, smiling happily at the camera. I stared at the chat history between the two for a long time, tears falling on the screen. I clicked on Dang Wei's moments. The top few photos were of a happy family of 3. In the first photo, Jiang Yuesheng stared at the camera casually. Dang Wei held a baby a few months old, her lips slightly pursed, very reserved. In the second photo, Jiang Yuesheng held a child over 1 year old in a flustered manner. Dang Wei stood aside and smiled very gently. In the third photo, Jiang Yuesheng and Dang Wei stood side by side, holding a child over 2 years old in their hands. The fourth photo showed the child lying on Jiang Yuesheng's shoulder, smiling brightly at the camera, with Dang Wei standing quietly beside them, her eyes filled with undisguised tenderness. The fourth photo. The fifth photo. The empty house, the room dark, tears blurring my vision. I was having trouble breathing. A wave of pain hit my stomach, making me break out in a cold sweat. The phone rang. I steadied my breath and answered. Jiang Yuesheng's gentle voice came from the other end. I'm coming back tomorrow. Has the baby been good? I opened my mouth, but my voice caught in my throat, sweat soaking my clothes. I struggled to say, I'm in so much pain, Jiang Yuesheng. A panicked voice came from the other end, along with the screech of a chair scraping the floor. What's wrong? I'll be right back. Just wait for me. I vaguely heard Jiang Yuesheng anxiously saying to someone nearby. Book the earliest flight immediately, then call the old residence to check on IE, and dial 120, hurry. My consciousness blurred. I desperately tried to comfort the baby, until I felt something flowing out from below, and I couldn't help but sob. I couldn't hold on to anything. Everything hurt. When I woke up, the first thing I saw was Jiang Yuesheng's haggard face. He stood up with surprise when he saw I was awake. You're finally awake. His eyes were bloodshot, his stubble unkempt, and his usually neat clothes were wrinkled, making him look years older in an instant. I turned my head, not wanting to see the heartache in his eyes. He touched my face, wiped away the tears from the corners of my eyes, opened his mouth, and said with difficulty, we can still have children, we're still young. I bit my lip hard, no longer able to hold back the sobs. Jiang Yuesheng, why? Emotions tore through me, tears bursting like a dam. I couldn't control my breakdown and cried, pounding his chest. Jiang Yuesheng, why did you lie to me? He froze. The look in his eyes was a mixture of disbelief, heartache, and guilt, but mostly regret and panic. He stammered, do you know? Looking at the woman he loved most, Jiang Yuesheng felt as if his heart was being tightly gripped, the pain making it hard to breathe, the collapse and despair in his heart threatening to completely destroy him. Jiang Yuesheng knelt down directly, extremely humbled. I was wrong, it was all a moment of stupidity. My breathing was rapid, emotions surged, and I could no longer suppress the anger in my heart. You've kept this secret from me for 4 years. If I hadn't found out, how many years would you have hidden it from me? 5 years? 10 years? Or a lifetime? Jiang Yuesheng knelt on the cold ground, his hands clenched into fists, his fingernails digging deep into his palms, tears mixing with snot, his voice very hoarse. I'm sorry, She and I were an accident. I was drunk on a business trip once and mistook her for you, and then... Jiang Yuexing broke down and cried, burying his head in his hands. The first thing I did when I woke up was to make her take medicine. I didn't expect she would still get pregnant. I really love you. You can hit me, you can scold me, but please don't leave me. I rarely closed my eyes. I don't want to hear your explanation. Let's get a divorce. Jiang Yuexing was about to say something, but I turned over, ignoring him. Leave, I'm tired. Jiang Yuexing didn't leave, he was still in the hospital room, but my thoughts drifted far away. Actually, everything was traceable, but I loved and trusted Jiang Yuexing too much, and never doubted him. It turns out that promises made in youth don't necessarily count. During my hospitalization, Jiang Yuexing stayed with me every day. When I ignored him, he just talked to himself. He talked about when he was young, about the past. I desperately covered my ears, not wanting to recall anything, but Jiang Yuexing repeatedly stirred up memories deep inside me that I didn't want to bring up. I grabbed the pillow from the bed and threw it at him, almost collapsing as I shouted, Jiang Yuexing, this is already our second child, can you please leave me alone? Jiang Yuexing might have been stunned by the pillow, or perhaps struck by my words. He stared at me blankly, his lips trembling, almost unable to speak. When Jiang Yuexing's business started to improve, I got pregnant. Jiang Yuexing and I were both very happy. This was the crystallization of our love. Jiang Yuexing gritted his teeth and used his first earnings to buy a house. The house wasn't big and was a bit run down, but we hugged each other and cried. This was the first house we owned. Jiang Yuexing gently stroked my belly, his eyes overflowing with love. Mom and Dad will give you so much love, and Dad will work hard to earn money to take good care of you and Mom. The walls in the old apartment complex weren't soundproof, and you could hear the noise outside. At that moment, home seemed to have a concrete form. Unfortunately, it didn't last long. Jiang Yuexing's business partner was poached by a competitor. Jiang Yuexing was busy and disoriented, leaving early and returning late every day, just to find the next business partner. Jiang Yuexing lacked experience, and was also a newcomer, so many people were afraid to gamble and were unwilling to invest in him. Jiang Yuexing was afraid that I would worry too much, so he shouldered everything alone, but I saw everything. I looked everywhere for connections to help Jiang Yuexing connect with people, but I ran into walls everywhere. Fortunately, heaven doesn't disappoint those who have a heart. My college senior helped arrange a dinner, bringing me and Jiang Yuexing along to help us get sponsorship. Jiang Yuexing had no background and was pulled aside by a group of people and forced to drink. Jiang Yuexing was drunk as a skunk, and they turned their attention to me. The group laughed heartily, the laughter on their faces squeezing their flesh together, and I couldn't see the road ahead. They said, "Why doesn't Mrs. Jiang have a drink? If you finish it, we'll invest in President Jiang, how about that?" Jiang Yuexing's consciousness was blurred, but he still held my hand tightly, not letting go. My face was pale, and I touched my still inconspicuous belly. His eyes were red. "We don't need any investment, i.e., let's go." His grip was very strong, and it hurt so much that I couldn't breathe. Jiang Yuexing's tone was almost pleading, i.e., let's go home. I turned to look at him, his eyes were bloodshot. He didn't cry when they were treating him like a dog, but now his eyes were filled with tears. Lacking any dignity, he turned and roared at them, "My wife is pregnant, she can't drink alcohol. You've begged for so long, who else will help you?" Their words were harsh, but they were true. It had been almost a month, and if the funds couldn't be turned around, Jiang Yuexing's hard work would all be for nothing. I knew how much Jiang Yuexing valued this opportunity. I gritted my teeth. "I'll drink. We can have other children, but a missed opportunity is gone forever." I raised a glass, toasted them, and drank it all in one gulp. The fiery liquor burned in my stomach, and Jiang Yuexing hugged me, crying without any concern for his image. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." I raised my hand and touched his head, struggling to speak. It's okay, Ashing. The child didn't survive, the alcohol content was too high, and he was too young. In the end, he left us. Jiang Yuesheng always felt guilty towards me. Later, the company slowly got better, went public, his status rose, and he gained a foothold. He put 20% of the shares in my name. We trampled those who had looked down on him under our feet, and we lived better and better. Later, my health wasn't good, and it was always difficult for me to get pregnant. When I finally did, he still left me in the end. Jiang Yuesheng didn't want to mention that matter. It was a scar for both of us, and now that I had brought it up out of the blue, he was flustered. He didn't even know how to speak, just staring at me blankly. I wiped away my tears. Let's let each other go, this is too tiring for both of us. He was silent, the sadness in his eyes like a thick, unyielding fog. This time, the quarrel ended on a sour note. I was discharged from the hospital, but Jiang Yuesheng still refused to get a divorce. He also didn't go to Dang Wei, just hovering around me. Until Jiang Yu came to our door alone. I opened the door. The child was wearing a beautiful princess dress, her hair was neatly combed, and she had a small bear backpack on her back. Her eyebrows and eyes were very similar to Jiang Yuesheng's, especially when she smiled. She was practically a carbon copy of him. Seeing me open the door, she politely asked me, "Hello, Auntie, I'm here to find my dad." The little girl had a sweet smile, and she seemed to have been raised in the palm of her parents' hands. I thought, if my child were still here, she would probably be like this, too, cute, confident, and poised. The little girl was startled by my current appearance. "Auntie, why are you crying?" I intended to close the door, but then I thought that it would be even more troublesome if the child ran around and got lost. I wiped away my tears. "Come in and wait for him." Jiang Yu was very well behaved, sitting quietly on the sofa, curious about everything in the house, but not looking around wildly. Aunt Shang, pour 2 glasses of water. Aunt Shang was very curious about this sudden child, a child exactly like Jiang Yuesheng, and remembering my sudden miscarriage, she looked at me, hesitant to speak. Jiang Yuesheng quickly rushed back. He opened the door, panting, and I turned my head to look at him blankly. Jiang Yu saw Jiang Yuesheng, happily ran forward and hugged his leg. "Dad." Jiang Yuesheng's body stiffened, unsure of how to speak. Jiang Yu looked up, constantly calling Daddy. In the end, I broke the silence. "Take her back." I was too quiet, so quiet that Jiang Yuesheng stared intently at me. I stopped looking at him and turned back to my room. Jiang Yuesheng came to find me several times, but I sent him away each time. Staying at home all the time, Aunt Shang was afraid I would get sick from it, and tried to persuade me to go out for a walk. I looked at the old woman with a few strands of white hair at her temples and finally agreed. I wandered around the neighborhood and met Dang Wei in a coffee shop. She was dressed as impeccably as ever, and the years had not left any traces on her face, but had added a bit of charm. She raised a bright smile. "Mrs. Jiang, what a coincidence." I glanced at her without a word. Dang Wei's acting was clumsy. She lived in a place facing south while I lived in a place facing north. I was too lazy to expose her. I lifted my eyelids, nodded, and turned to leave. Dang Wei hurriedly stopped me, and I turned around impatiently. She raised her hand to tuck her hair behind her ear, revealing half of her fair wrist, where she wore an icy jade bracelet that I had once seen in Jiang Yuesheng's pocket. At that time, I thought it was a gift for me and looked forward to it for a long time. Later, he bought a ruby necklace for me at an auction, and I forgot about it. I looked down at the necklace still around my neck and felt extremely ironic. I knew why Dang Wei came to me. She didn't expose her relationship with Jiang Yuesheng, just simply to disgust me. I tried to calm myself. "What is it?" Dang Wei looked at me pretending to be unaware, smiling with envy. You and President Jiang still have such a good relationship. He spoils you like a child. I was so angry that I laughed. I had just lost my child, and my qi and blood were insufficient, and my skin wasn't as good as before. She was poking at my pain points here. I stepped forward and slapped her backhand. Is our relationship something that an outsider like you can interfere with? She covered her face in disbelief, stubbornly looking up at me, tears about to fall, making people feel sorry for her. I don't know what I said to make Mrs. Jiang unhappy. I raised my hand and slapped her again. If you don't know, then reflect on yourself, you useless thing. Dang Wei was brought to tears by me, sobbing softly, and then suddenly shouted softly behind me, President Jiang. I crossed my arms and looked down at her condescendingly. Jiang Yuexing stood behind me, his face not looking good, his brows furrowed, and his eyes flashing with angry sparks. Dang Wei was about to start selling her misery, but saw Jiang Yuexing carefully holding my hand, his tone full of concern. Does it hurt? Dang Wei froze in place, her eyes red. Jiang Yuexing gave her a warning glance, then picked me up in his arms. Let's go home. After walking a long way, I looked back at Dang Wei, who was stunned in place. She looked over with a confused look, and then I retracted my gaze. Jiang Yuexing put me on the sofa, covered me with a blanket, and went to the kitchen to pour me a glass of water. I obediently drank the water and suddenly said, Jiang Yuexing, let's not get divorced. He grabbed my shoulders in surprise and asked me very seriously, really? I stroked his familiar cheeks and nodded gently, really. I always knew that Jiang Yueli came to Jiang Yuexing at Dang Wei's instigation. So I spent money to spread the news that Dang Wei was someone's mistress, and the internet was filled with abuse, which also affected the shares of Jiang Yuexing's company. I casually flipped through the comments online, and Jiang Yuexing rushed back. He didn't say anything, but he knew everything. He looked at me for a long time, and finally sighed, as long as it makes you feel better, you can do whatever you want. I was very calm, without a trace of emotion. I want to take the house back. He didn't hesitate at all and agreed very readily, okay. This is our joint property. Even if he doesn't agree, I can sue. I can only say that Jiang Yuexing's patience is really good. He treated everything as if it hadn't happened, and still spoke to me gently, bringing me my favorite cake and flowers. But we both knew that after this happened, some things had quietly changed, but neither of us broke the silence. I saw Dang Wei again in the hospital. I had a fever all night and was getting in 4 in the hospital. Dang Wei was hospitalized with her child in the next room. Dang Wei was stunned when she saw me. I couldn't see the emotions in her eyes clearly, perhaps anger, sadness, or unwillingness. But these had nothing to do with me. When I was about to be discharged, she came over and said, Qingyi, let's talk. Only she and I were in the ward. Anger flashed in her eyes. Actually, you knew all along that the call Yaya made to you was at my instigation, right? I nodded and asked, so what? The child was so young, it's not strange to make a wrong call, but there's a call record. Dang Wei couldn't possibly not see it, and her well-timed voice was deliberately said for me to hear. Perhaps when I first went to see her, she had already noticed my presence, so she desperately used the child to keep Jiang Yuexing. Dang Wei is not as simple as she seems on the surface. Dang Wei laughed, a little crazily. Do you know how envious I am of you? Aixing's eyes have always been on you. Even if I look very similar to you, he will only treat me as a younger sister and has no other feelings for me. So at a party, when I saw Aixing was drunk, I knew my chance had come. Because she looked too similar and Dang Wei deliberately seduced him, Jiang Yuexing treated her as me, and they slept together. When I found out I was pregnant with his child, I was overjoyed. Jiang Yuexing asked her to abort the child, and she agreed nicely on the surface, but later resigned and secretly gave birth to the child. The next time Jiang Yuexing saw her, she was about to give birth. At that time, Jiang Yuexing was on the verge of collapse, waiting with bloodshot eyes for the child to be born. At first, Jiang Yuexing was very resistant to the child and Deng Wei, but he slowly accepted everything after getting along with them. Deng Wei broke down and cried, complaining about her dissatisfaction with me. I thought I could keep him with the child, but your crying tore apart the feelings I had built up over the years. I couldn't stop the tears from flowing, and my heart ached so much that I couldn't breathe. If it weren't for Deng Wei, maybe Jiang Yuexing and I would have lived a happy life. Or maybe not. Jiang Yuexing didn't handle this matter well. He was the culprit. He allowed this matter to ferment, painstakingly hiding it from me and deceiving me like an idiot for 5 years. I looked at the woman in front of me with a little sympathy and pity. She couldn't see the pain Jiang Yuexing brought her, but instead hated me, who was just as pitiful as her. I said calmly, "Who is better off now?" Deng Wei looked at me for a long time and finally turned around and left. Deng Wei couldn't bear the pressure from the internet in the end and moved out of the community with her child. Jiang Yuexing hesitated to speak to me, but I pretended not to notice. Although we lived under the same roof, we now slept in separate rooms and barely exchanged a few words. Later, Jiang Yuexing sat alone by the window drinking, bottles and cans scattered on the floor, cigarette butts and ashes everywhere, and the room was filled with a strong smell of smoke and alcohol. I couldn't sleep because of the noise he was making, so I put on a coat and walked out of the room and saw his lonely figure. I walked over and kicked him with my foot. "You're disturbing my sleep." Jiang Yuexing raised his head, his eyes bloodshot, looking old and haggard for a 30-year-old man. He tilted his head back and took a swig of alcohol, as if talking to himself, "Maybe this is my retribution." I ignored him, but he pulled me along, as if looking for someone to confide in. I'm sorry. I don't know why we've ended up like this. I clearly promised to give you a lifetime of happiness when we were young. I'm the one who ruined you. I didn't know what he was going crazy about, so I watched coldly and didn't react. He didn't care whether I answered or not, and continued, "I've already sent Deng Wei and the child abroad. I plan to stop seeing them and live a good life with you." At this point, Jiang Yuexing became a little emotional, but I didn't expect that plane to have an accident. Deng Wei and the child were both on the plane. I was stunned and looked at Jiang Yuexing in disbelief, wanting to find a trace of lying in his expression, but there was none. I hate Deng Wei, but I hate Jiang Yuexing even more, so I plan to live with Jiang Yuexing for the rest of my life, disgusting Deng Wei, making her an unacknowledged mistress for the rest of her life, and her child will be labeled as an illegitimate child. But I never thought of letting Deng Wei die. Jiang Yuexing clutched his hair, emotionally collapsing. As expected, people who betray sincerity deserve it. The words I said to you before have come true. I knew which words he was referring to. The one I love most in this life, if they ever do something to betray me, may they spend the rest of their lives alone. Karma is a cycle. I don't pity Jiang Yuexing and Deng Wei, but I feel sorry for that lovely little girl. Jiang Yuexing and I separated. After being depressed for a few months, he started coming to find me every day. If I didn't open the door, he would stand outside. Whether I saw him or not, he appeared at my door on time every day. One time, Aunt Zhang took leave to go home, and I went downstairs to throw out the trash and was blocked by Jiang Yu. I looked at him quietly, without any emotional fluctuations. His eyes reddened. I would rather you yell at me and hate me than see you so quiet. I'm so scared. I didn't look at him and turned to leave without hesitation. If he was really scared, how could he have really been willing to let me suffer so much and deceive me for so long? After Aunt Zhang returned from her leave, she continued to take care of my daily life. Once, it rained heavily outside, and Jiang Yuexing was sitting in his car. The road started to flood, and Aunt Zhang spoke up for him for the first time. Xiaoyi, really not going to let him come up? I stood at the window and looked at him. The rain was heavy, blurring the glass, and I couldn't see the situation inside the car clearly. I closed the curtains and said softly, "He'll leave in a little while." I looked at Aunt Shang, who wanted to say something but hesitated, and gave a relieved smile. "Aunt Shang, I can't go back with him. Now, all I want to do is love myself." In the past few years, I have traveled across the great rivers and mountains of our country, seen the vast grasslands, the rushing Yellow River, and the towering mountains. I have also seen winter in Norway. The fishing ports of Norway are covered in white snow in winter, with colorful houses dotted in between, and the lights are bright at night, like twinkling stars. I also went to Finland alone to see the aurora. The aurora is gorgeous and charming, spreading freely in the night sky, bringing a visual feast to travelers. So, when I received Jiang Yuesheng's call in England, I was a little surprised. His voice on the other end was as pleasant and gentle as ever, i.e., "Can you come back and see me?" I looked at the bustling crowds coming and going outside the window, and didn't make a sound. He was silent for a long time, his tone pleading, "I have terminal lung cancer. I don't have much time left. I want to see you one last time." I thought that I had been entangled with him for so long, it was indeed time to make a break. I booked the earliest flight and rushed to the hospital after getting off the plane. I had imagined countless times what my reunion with Jiang Yuesheng would be like. Maybe by then I would have let go, and then we would smile at each other. But I never imagined that Jiang Yuesheng would be so thin that he was just skin and bones, lying on the hospital bed, barely breathing. He tried to take my hand, but couldn't because he didn't have the strength. I didn't move, and he smiled bitterly, "You still haven't forgiven me." I have seen a lot and thought a lot. I don't want to make things difficult for myself. I really haven't forgiven him, but I don't hate him that much anymore. I calmly asked him, "When did it happen?" He lowered his eyes, obedient like a child, 2 years ago. These past few years, he smoked and drowned his sorrows in alcohol every day. His body had long been unable to take it. The ward was quiet. After a long silence, he finally spoke, "After I die, I want my ashes buried with you." I raised my eyebrows and smiled, a big, mischievous smile. "You wish. I'm going to scatter your ashes in the sea to feed the sharks." Jiang Yuesheng laughed, and for a moment, I seemed to see that bright and generous boy from my youth again. He looked relaxed, and his thin face was flushed, looking more alive. "You're still as vengeful and clear about your love and hate as you used to be." He sighed, "Feeding them to the sharks is fine, as long as you're happy." I hated that Jiang Yuesheng was always like this, indulging me without limits, and I also hated why he still had feelings for me but still cheated on someone else. Jiang Yuesheng said he wanted to eat the candied haws from that shop in Jiangqing and asked me to buy them for him. It was the first time he had asked me for something, and I didn't refuse. I returned to the hospital entrance with the candied haws, and it was already snowing heavily outside. I couldn't help but look up at Jiang Yuesheng's ward. Jiang Yuesheng passed away half an hour after I left the hospital. The doctor said he wasn't in pain and even managed to smile at the nurse, saying, "I'm very happy today." I quietly watched the motionless Jiang Yuesheng, and tears flowed uncontrollably. I wondered how Jiang Yuesheng and I ended up like this in the end. Jiang Yuesheng left all his property to me. I took the money and scattered Jiang Yuesheng's ashes in every corner of the sea. The sunlight was dazzling, and I raised my hand to shield my eyes. The sea breeze lifted my hair, and I took a deep breath. Jiang Yuesheng and I, who were tired of each other and entangled for a lifetime, finally ended things hastily. From now on, it's just me. All I can do is love myself well.